Welcome to Talk of the Town, proudly brought to you by Uniquely Nelson. I'm your host, Chris Butler, and with me, Simon Duffy, General Manager of Uniquely Nelson.
Morning.
Today, we're coming to you from the famous 1903 historical site on Trafalgar Street. Look at that.
Why is it called 1903, Chris?
Anyway, joining us today is Michael Cochrane and Annika Pfitzinger. Did I get that right?
You got that right. You nailed it.
But most people call you Annie. Is that right?
That's right. It's easier.
And most people call you Michael.
That's right. That's right.
Fantastic. Hey, look, great to have you two here. Very timely because we're on the home straight, you could say, to a rather big event that's coming up, the Spectacle. And we're going to talk more about that later in the podcast. But first of all, Michael, I did note that you were a born and bred Nelsonian. And so have you always lived here, or have you been away and come back?
Yeah, that's right. I'm Victory Square. I grew up in Victory Square. It's a Victory school and Nelson College, and spent 20 plus years in the corporate world in Australia, and brought my kids home to speak with a proper accent.
Yeah, that's right.
Here in Nelson.
That's right.
And Annika, so tell us a bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm half American and half Kiwi. I lived in Auckland most of my life since I was 5. Been down to Nelson a few times kind of growing up, but then about 10 years ago, I came down here and I just fell in love with the town. And I said that I'd always live here at some point. And then about 4 years later, I ended up meeting a Nelsonian, and now we're engaged. And
And was he a runner? He was a runner?
He was indeed.
Right.
He was indeed.
Do we know him?
Vaguely. Yeah.
I'll let you introduce him later on. Then it sounds like he's too shy. So tell me, I've got here, how did you both get involved in athletics? But Annie, you lead off first.
Sure.
Ladies.
So both my parents were runners. They both went to the Olympics. My mum for New Zealand and my dad for America. My dad in the marathon and my mum in the 3,000 meters. So I grew up amongst runners pretty much. They coached, they ran themselves, very active house. So I think it was going to be hard not to get involved in athletics. But I loved it from a young age, and I've done it ever since.
I love that.
Wow.
I was Olympics Barcelona. It's my first
Amazing.
Olympics.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That would have been an amazing one.
Oh, it was, as a spectator, I loved it.
Yeah.
I got to
Yes,
see
that's
most
right.
things. Michael. Michael.
My background, being involved in athletics is probably a generous description of myself. I'm a mid-packer, they call them. I sort of certainly not as fast as Annie or Julian or their families, but I actually got a border collie in my 20s. Was never into running when I played sport. I always avoided pre-season, right at the back of the shuttle runs, and fell in love with ultra running and run a bunch of ultra marathons, particularly in Australia.
Yeah.
As anyone who's got a working dog knows, that they can run and run and run.
Yeah,
So, my dog got me into running, and ever since it's been something which has been a pastime. But however, I think an athlete is quite a stretch
yeah.
to describe.
But
it.
ultra running, that's extreme running, isn't it? That's not just like a quick 100 meters. Just explain a wee bit about ultra.
Well, an ultra is technically anything longer than a marathon, really.
Okay.
Most ultra marathons are 50 Ks plus. 100 mile is I guess the premium event of ultra marathons.
Okay.
But they even have 200 and 300 mile races in New Zealand today. So you're out there for 50-mile races, maybe 8 hours, out there for 8 hours plus. Some people are out there, some of our contestants in the Spectacle will be out there for 43 hours running.
With
Oh,
the odd
my.
break here and there and some barley sugar.
That's right. It's a lot more
Yeah,
relaxed than
routine, yeah.
marathons. You know, you have a good long walk up the hills. You sit down at the aid stations, have a feed, have a natter. So it's a little bit more relaxed.
Oh.
It's a bit more of a relaxed culture than the
Sounds
road
like
running.
me.
It's me without the running. Aid station for 43 hours.
So because Australia, we've had some famous Australian ultra marathon runners. So it's the country for that. Is that really how you got more involved in that kind of running?
Yeah, I lived in the alpine country of Victoria, where there's quite a few ultra marathons held. and beautiful terrain for it. Not as beautiful as our terrain here in Nelson, but they did have these big global events, which certainly that was my first introduction really to helping out and being a volunteer and working on aid stations and things like that, and just realizing how much of an amazing thing it is for all the people involved.
And I mean, had New Zealand always done it, or did it kind of adopt it after Australia had,
I guess it was an American thing.
Was
so
it?
Andy
Right.
can probably talk better to that. The Western States is a famous race which has been around for maybe 50 years.
Yes, right.
So the birth of ultra running was actually a really, really long time ago. And there's the history of ultra running podcast. Plug another podcast.
Oh.
But, sorry, I think that's forbidden. But for a very long time ago in the 1800s in America, it was a key spectator sport. They'd actually fill circus tents and watch men run around and around and around for days until they pretty much fell over. And of course, back then the water wasn't safe to drink, so they at the aid stations there was ale.
So that's
Looking
where,
better and better.
so that's obviously where the pub runs were born.
There
Yeah,
we
that's
go.
right. And Annika, like, is this your life, or do you have a day job, or
This has become my life.
has it?
It was actually quite helpful. At the time that we kind of started talking about the spectacle, my current job was winding up. So I was able to take on a little bit more of the spectacle work, just because Jules and Michael are flat out with their Matthews work. So that's been, it was actually really great timing for me, which was cool.
And you're running, had you got into running because of your parents as well? Was that something you took up, or did you resist it?
No, I was pretty keen from the start, really.
Ah.
Yeah, I played other sports growing up, but I was only good at those because I was fit from running. I was naturally quite a good runner, so I played soccer, and I could be everywhere on the field. So I was terrible with the ball, but I could get places pretty well.
And what,
Yeah.
so I was going to say, what part of America?
I'm originally from New Hampshire.
Right.
Yeah, so
New England.
kind of, northeast, very cold winters. It was one of the key drivers for us to come to New Zealand.
Yeah.
A bit more miles, a bit closer to Mum's family, which was good. But yeah, I run pretty much my entire life and had a decent amount of setbacks. But this year I qualified for the World Cross Country Champs in Serbia, and that was probably like the highlight of my running. But now I also coach a whole bunch of high schoolers as well, which is amazing.
Well,
That's
I
really,
did
really
notice
cool.
that. I had a quick look at the Spectacle website, and I noticed that there's coaching in that CV. So that's something you're getting more involved in.
Yeah, I've been coaching with Athletics Nelson for about 4 years. I've got a group of about 15 high school aged athletes who like to do cross country and track. Some are just there for fitness as well. But we cater to everybody, no matter kind of what your goals are. And it's so fulfilling. It's
It's a
amazing.
fantastic facility out Saxton,
Yeah,
isn't
we're
it?
so lucky to have that
yeah.
here. It's amazing.
I tell you that Annie's very modest about her running. She's an
Right.
exceptional female athlete, very talented. The first time I met Annie was at the Christchurch Marathon. And after the marathon, I'd done a half marathon pacing my brother, and sort of an hour 50 half marathon, not very fast at all. And I saw Julian and Annie, and they asked me about my run, and I talked about my run for a long period of time. And
Longer
then
than the run.
exactly. And then I said, how did you do? And Julian said, oh, she finished second.
And you're talking yourself up.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay then. Yeah. And obviously, during your day, obviously Julian and Matthews has been a big part of this event as well. But that's what you do during the day as well. Is that right, Michael?
Yes, I'm the chief executive of the Matthews Eye Care Group across New Zealand. We're Nelson's best kept secret, really. We're Cape to Bluff. We've got 25, soon to be 30 practices, and 150 optometrists around New Zealand. So that keeps me busy. The reason I moved home to Nelson was to take on and be the first non-Matthews to run the family company.
Yeah, that's right.
Not an easy task.
No,
Had you always been involved in eyeglass or eye care, I should say, eye care or?
No, I started in
Completely
the
different.
finance world and the corporates,
Right.
and then moved into healthcare. So I've been a healthcare executive for a fair while now, and optometry is just an extension of that. We've got these fancy little glasses that we sell too, which there's a bit of a fun side to it. It's not just a healthcare business.
Yeah, that's right. Had you known Julian prior? I mean, was that the connection or?
No, so when I started with Matthews, I came out here. I was running a lot at that time, and running a lot on our trails, and I'd just done a couple of these big events in Australia, and I said to John, I knew Julian was a runner, and I knew of him. There's not many sub 4 minute milers around
Yeah,
around the
that's
world,
right,
it's
that's
particularly
right.
Nelson.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, I reckon I want to have a big trail run in Nelson. I think that it's such great world class trails. We could have one of those. And that's when they say the difference between a lone nut and a leader is the first follower. And that was Julian saying, "Oh no, that's an amazing idea. I think if we could bring the best Olympians in the world here at the same time, we could have a true festival of running." And that was really the genesis of the spectacle.
Tell us a bit more about that. So, the spectacle, you've mentioned kind of the seed of it, but how did the event come about and, to where it is today?
Yes, well, I had that conversation with Julian, and then the very next step was we had a conversation with Oakley at a global level around, hey, would you support something like this? And they were really, really responsive and positive straight off the bat. So we had the inkling, oh, maybe we could get the money to do this, as you know, and most events are quite money hungry, particularly in their first years. So that gave us maybe this is feasible. But as Annie mentioned, Julian and I have ideas and little time. And Julian said, let's talk to Annie about it. And Annie straight away was, yeah, great. This is awesome. Which has been really, really fortuitous because Annie's done 99.9% of the work leading up to
So I got this idea, Annie. Yeah.
But where it really came from, we were the brand agency in Nelson, workshopping Matthew's eye care stuff, and they wanted to name a sale, and they were looking for names, and they were like this festival of spectacle, something like that. And I remember walking down the stairs of the agency, going, "That's a terrible name for a sale." But gee, I think we've got a name for our event.
Yeah, right.
The spectacle, and then really from that moment on, the next step was engaging Nathan Fave. Because we have no background in running these events. I helped out with plenty, but it's a different thing being the organizer. And Nathan, actually, funnily enough, I rang him and he said, "Oh, listen, I'm busy." He was filming a Netflix show at the time. I said, "I've got no time for new projects, but I do need to get my eyes tested. So I'll do you a deal. You give me an eye test and I'll have coffee with you and talk to you about your event."
Oh.
And for the record, Nathan still hasn't come in and bought glasses. But we sat down and had a coffee, and 2 minutes in, he put down his coffee and said, "Forget what I said about being too busy. I'm in. This is a fantastic thing for Nelson." And it's just really kicked on from there.
So the people that are obviously there's people coming from overseas, but I believe there's certain events finishing at a certain time of the year, as Hawaii. And then other places, and they come down to New Zealand for the mid-December for the spectacle. So who are these people and where are they coming from?
Yeah, so one of the key, I guess, draw cards of the spectacle is we are trying to get, or we have got, a bunch of Olympians and world-class mile runners coming down to Nelson. And unfortunately, just due to our location in the world, we're not the easiest place to get to. And the track and field season is really long. If you include indoors, it's pretty much all year. It finishes about October most of the time. So December was really the only time that we could kind of fit it into that schedule and make sure they could come. And the event's also based a little bit on the Mary Mile, which is a mile race in Honolulu. And that's actually the week before our race. So we've been working with them, which has been amazing. So they get a lot of world-class runners as well for their race. So then they're going from Honolulu to New Zealand and doing a little Pacific tour running the mile.
So this is a time to name drop.
Yes.
That's just coming.
Sure.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So
Annika Pfitzinger.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. So we have Sam Tanner, so local local Kiwi runner. He's been to 2 Olympics now. He's, I think, the second or third fastest miler ever in New Zealand. And he was really supportive from the start, which has been amazing. We have Neil Gorley coming down. He's a British athlete. He just competed at the Olympics as well. We have Georgia Griffith from Australia.
Yep.
She has had an incredible season. She is one to watch. She also just got back from the Olympics. We have Vince Chieti from America. He finished 4th at the Olympic trials in the 1500. I don't know if you know, but at the Olympics, America got 1st, 3rd, and 5th in the 1500. So coming 4th at the trials and just missing the team, you're probably going to be in that final at the Olympics if you made it. And then we have Kimberly May. She is a Kiwi runner. She's an up-and-coming runner based in the States. So she's coming back for it as well.
Right.
We have a few others that we're not quite ready to mention yet, but they're almost ready.
So, and tell us about the Festival of Running. Is there a marquee event, and then I noted there's some other events as well. So you've got a variety of different running races and distances. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we do, Chris. It's unique as far as we can tell globally, as far as connecting a big trail event and road athletes, particularly at an elite level. Name dropping, Sam Harvey's elite New Zealand ultra marathoner. He does backyard ultras. I think his longest run, he just came back from the world champs last week. I think 480 Ks Sam ran for the New Zealand team in that event. So he's quite special. But so we've got the Sam Harveys of the world and the Sam Tanners of the world who get to be at the one event, which is very, very rare. And I think we'll talk about our city later and exactly why Nelson makes this possible and makes the event so special.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is challenges. So you've got this idea and, you've talked to a few people about some ideas, but then you've got to pull it all together. And it's actually come together pretty quickly when you think about it, hasn't it? Because, it wasn't so long ago we heard about this event, and then you've got to try and, get it all organized. So can you tell us about some of those challenges and who's come to your rescue in a way, or who's come to support you?
Yeah. So I guess one of the challenges that Michael touched on was that it is a unique event. So it's really hard to sell something that hasn't been done before and get people to kind of buy into the idea. When you hear, running event, you'd be like, oh, like maybe 100, 200 locals, not going to do that much for the city really. But then kind of once we got a chance to kind of explain it, people really came on board, which has been amazing. Mayor Nick has been extremely supportive. He's a big runner himself, so he's loving it. The Chamber of Commerce have also been, really great.
Uniquely Nelson have been amazing. So a key challenge was first year, and we have quite an extensive traffic management plan, which required a lot of consultation with retailers and council. So that took considerably longer than we expected. So the runway normally for these events for entries is really 12 months. So 2025 opens on Saturday night this year, 2024. But we finally had our approvals in July, and then we launched and went to market in July. So I guess that was the key challenges.
And so this December window, because that was some of the resistance, was the fact that Christmas shopping is at its height. So retailers are a bit, oh, hang on, but this is the window that we need to have. Is that right, to fit in with the runners' calendars to get the best runners?
Yes, it is on the one hand, and you can talk to that. I can talk from a positioning of that date for Nelson. It is a shoulder season, particularly for our hospo and our accommodation providers. Rutherford are a key partner of our event. That's their lowest occupancy weekend of the summer. So it's timed very, very well for them. A key consideration is if this is going to be a global event, and we're going to have in future years 10,000 people coming to Nelson. A big restriction in our town is availability of beds.
Yeah, yes.
So it needs to be at a time when the beds aren't all full. At that point in December, your business travellers have stopped travelling really by the second weekend in December, and your tourists really haven't kicked in.
Yeah, that's
yet
very
after
interesting.
Christmas.
That's
So,
interesting. Even
yeah.
as we're even talking shoulder as close to Christmas as that. So
Mm.
so it's really that January, February is at its height, but there's opportunities within December itself. Yeah.
Well, there is, and
Yeah.
from a retailer perspective as well, we're a retailer in Nelson, and that was really part of the genesis is to bring visitors into Nelson to spend in our stores. Nelson's a destination town; it's not on the way to anywhere. And one of the best ways to get people to Nelson is, of course, events. We experienced that with Rural Arts over the years. So that was a real driver for us as retailers to help support a vibrant Nelson Central city. And that timing, all of the great little story. One of the accommodation providers who went to one of our very first launch events. He's been to every event actually, but the first launch event, he had a listen. Oh, what do I need to do? Do I need to make the rooms cheaper? I said, no, it's not about that. It's not price sensitive people. It's about providing a great experience and making it easy and partnering with us. It's about the service. So he took that on board. At the most recent event, he went up to Julian and said, I'm full. I'm booked out for the weekend. Thank you.
Right.
And he obviously buys Christmas presents in our stores and local retailers. So the more prosperous our tourism industry, that should flow through to our retailers, right?
And but potentially when you've got closure at a certain time, maybe it's on a Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember. Someone was talking to me about that the other day, and they were saying, well, they're here for 2 or 3 days. Potentially, aren't they? So there's downtime as well, and that gives participants and as well as the people that come with them the opportunity to go and do some activities and spend and shop as well, isn't it?
It is, and it's longer. That's what the trail running, especially those crazy 100-milers, are going to be running for. They start at 4 p.m. on 5 p.m. on Friday night and finish. Some of them will finish at lunchtime on Sunday. They don't come alone. They need support crew. I've certainly needed my wife to, put me in a fetal position in the bed after one of these things.
Resuscitate you at the end.
That's right. So there's definitely a long stay for those athletes. But the festival vibe and, for example, we name drop again, the Black Seeds. The reason for bringing the Black Seeds to Nelson was to position it's the best of New Zealand culture. Is this what we aspire for this event? It's free for all of Nelson. They haven't played here for a long time, and it really gave people who weren't necessarily into the running. I do get a lot of comments like Simon that the running bit's the worst part of our event. Everything else sounds great.
You've been saying that.
Basically, cricket, golf, running.
So that tie into building a festival and a reason to come and a reason to linger in the city. We fully expect over 5,000 spectators on that Friday night for the key Olympic, the International Elite Mile leading into the Black Seeds, and then events going on across the weekend. So it is really not just people are around for a couple of hours and then they leave. So hopefully in future years we can aspire to have 5,000 people traveling to run plus 10,000 people in the city watching the event.
It's kind of we touched on when we caught up with you and Julian, had a quick beer at the Vic. We talked about this has potential, like WOW started off on someone's veranda in the house, and they would never have guessed whatever years later that what it is that this has potential to year 2, year 3 become a major fixed event in Nelson. And the Black Seeds we're playing right here.
Yes.
Right behind us.
Yeah, right behind us on the stage. The same setup as New Year's Eve. You've been to New Year's Eve. Exactly the same setup. And sitting right here actually will be a wonderful vantage point.
This is a great setting.
That's right. Yeah. We'll have to book this table. So the city itself. So, we've obviously got amazing trails regionally. I mean, one of the I remember Kevin Fallon, who coached the All Whites. He, coached Nelson United at one point. He said one of the fantastic memories for him was all the natural training grounds. In those days, he just sent the boys running. And we've always had that. And with traffic management being, quite a headache, it's easier, I guess, to go out to the more regional places. So what was the decision? Why the driver to the city centre itself?
I guess our proximity to the trails is really quite unique. And we were invested in building, particularly in European races, there's that festival vibe in the city. Everyone runs through the city, they get to finish in the city. We looked at initially when traffic management was quite hard in Nelson, and before we really engaged the support of many stakeholders to get this event across the line. We were looking at other cities in New Zealand. It's very, very rare. You could do this in Wellington, perhaps. Not that you want to. Nelson's way better, but you could do this in Wellington. But there's not many cities in the world where the trail run comes down the Grampians and then down the back of Trafalgar Street. It's 800 meters of from trail to the steps to the finish, and with this square here packed, 5,000 people on these streets. We really didn't want to give up on that concept. Many people, when we launched the event, said, "Why don't you do it at Saxton's Field? Why don't you do it at Trafalgar Park?" And so, well, that's not. We need to. And remembering one of the key drivers is celebrating Nelson and activating our city centre. If we didn't have the start and finish in the city centre, then we're not doing a very good job of activating it.
So, still time for Chris and I to enter. And also a fun side too.
I was going to say, we went out Waihitakaro with the golf with Tony, and he said, have a go. So he swung a golf club. There must be a spot for him somewhere. Is there like a 20-meter dash?
Do you guys play golf? Do you play golf?
No.
Julian enjoys golf for sure.
Yeah, but there's time. We could get you running though, couldn't we?
Silly. It's like
what about
marbles with a toothpick?
Is there like a 50-meter dash or a walk? Or is it?
We don't quite 50 meters. We have 800 meters. That's our shortest. We've got a lot of fun business relays. A lot of local businesses have jumped in, and you dress up, you have fun bat-ins, you have a good time.
You race your competitors. I'm seeing a podcast of Nelson Showdown.
Fun.
That's right. They'll come out of the woodwork.
We challenge Richmond Unlimited and our town mock. That'd be fun.
Oh, there you go.
That'd be a weird one. Right. So, because there is, besides the serious, the Olympians and so forth at a certain level, there's a whole smorgasbord of delights as far as for schools, children, corporates to get in. Do the companies still need a bit of a push for city businesses to get involved?
Yeah, we're doing a bit of a push now. We've had a lot of great buy-in in the last couple of weeks, which has been really cool. Got a lot of fun competitions, a lot of rivalries going on, which has been really fun. But it is. The event really is for everybody. We've got something for kids all the way up to pretty much as how if you can walk, you can do the spectacle in some shape or form.
So where do people go for more information if they want to register, get more involved? Your website?
Yeah, just our website, thespectacle.co.nz will do the trick.
And there's registration and
everything is on there. Pretty much everything you need to know is right there.
Yeah, it takes a vast village of people to run an event like this. So we're certainly, if you can't run, you don't want to walk, you still want to get here to see the Black Seeds, we have a lot of volunteering opportunities. So you can email info@spectacle.co.nz to express your interest in volunteering. A really good way to get involved, and you still get to get backstage access to the after party and things like that.
Wow. That'll be more your line, wouldn't it, rather than the marathon. And it also, we must say, it is a bit of a celebration of our success in athletics in Nelson, because we've had some quite famous names, including Julian, but I mean, Rod Dixon, has he poked his nose into to volunteer? Or
he sure has.
I'm sure he'd be in there supporting, but we've got a bit of pedigree in Nelson. We kind of box above our weight with athletics, don't we?
Really do. It is very impressive. You got Rod Dixon, Tony Hodgkinson, you've got Julian. There's like so many different runners around from the different generations. And we do hope to have a lot of them down here. One of the charities that we're supporting, Ranui House, they're doing a marathon relay where they're actually trying to beat Rod Dixon's marathon time. So they're going to be going around the course for 2 hours and 8 minutes. About 50 of them running about 200 meters each, because you have to be able to run really quite fast to beat Rod's time. So that's a fun activation that they're doing.
Yeah, I think Simon probably shouldn't put his hand up for that one.
That's the shortest event,
climb up a
actually.
little bit.
Well, you could
You
do the
can-
last 10 meters.
I agree with Michael.
You could do the last 10
He's-
meters.
He
That's
knows my
his
ability
option,
and sport.
And I suppose I remember there's a similar town in Western Australia called Busselton, and they've got an ultra marathon. I think they call it. Well, it's not really an Ironman, but it's long distance. It's hot. Unfortunately, it's on the coast, but they started getting television coverage, of that event. And is that something maybe in the future we might see, where in actual fact you can make it an annual or a biannual event?
Yeah, we'd love to. We're actually just kind of finalizing our live streaming for the event. So we'll have a couple of hours of live streaming of the different events, and then the Elite Mile as well.
And great opportunity to, I guess these days with technology, to show off a bit of the countryside, isn't it?
Definitely.
It is,
Yeah.
some of the trail runners from around the world, where for 2025, we're hoping to get a trail runner who has 800,000 followers on Instagram. And one photo from her on our trails would speak volumes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, look, Michael and Annie, thank you very much for coming. I'll say coming in, but we're not, we're out. So in the middle of for coming along to talk to us about this wonderful event, and the location really setting the scene, because we're at the top end of Trafalgar Trafalgar Street, I should say, and this is where it's all going to start and begin. Is that right?
Yeah, for the road event.
The road race.
The road
You like your golf. The trail races are starting at Waitakere.
Right.
So you can try and hopefully none of the golfers have too much of an excessive slice on the day.
That's right.
So
Off
the trail.
Take half the field out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and all the entertainment and the base is going to be here, which is fantastic for the city and fantastic for the region. So well done for the idea, and well done for getting it this far, and good luck on the event itself. And we look forward to after you get over this one, see how much energy you've got for another one. Yeah.
We're launching 2025 on the day.
Yeah.
So
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
Get
it.
into it.
Yeah.
There's
No
no turning back
option.
now.
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and all the
you.
best. Thank you. Heartfelt thank you to Michael and Annie from The Spectacle. Don't forget to check out the website if you want to enter. You can find this podcast and others on uniquelynelson.co.nz and talknelson.co.nz, and also on Spotify. Just look for Uniquely Nelson. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to join us next time for more from Talk of the Town. This is Chris Butler and Simon Duffy signing off. Until next time, Nelson.
Stay uniquely spectacle.
Is that too long? Too long.